Hey family, welcome to Clitch Talk.
Hey Rashaad, thank you for being on the show. I'm so glad, a brother K, hook us up.
Yeah,
Uh, and basically, I didn't really know anything about you. So for the people who don't really know you, can you give a small elevated pitch who you are and what you do?
yeah, sure. So, no, thank you for having me first and foremost, and yeah, shout out to Kay for obviously making this happen. And so, my name's Rashaad. I'm the founder of Major Favor, which is a delivery service that allows users to buy and deliver items for each other from any store.
Wow, let's go deep into that. you just said like it's like something easy, but it's complicated to put it in place. So
Absolutely.
so what was the idea behind Major Favor?
Yeah, so I used to work in London, and I was one of those guys that every Friday night I needed to go out, and the group of friends that I had, we always wanted to one up each other when it came to like looking good.
Yeah.
So on a Friday afternoon, I would always find myself sprinting to the nearest kind of like clothing shop, trying to like get an outfit for that same night.
Wow.
And I just thought, this is so frustrating. Like, I wish there was a service that allowed me to essentially just ask someone, hey, I know exactly what I want.
Yeah.
I know exactly where it's from. I know the price.
Yeah.
I just need someone to buy it and bring it to me, right? And so that's where this kind of idea came from.
Oh wow. So from something that is frustrating you were like, hey, maybe there is a problem enough. A lot of people may have the same problem. Let's try to find a solution about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So once I kind of had the idea, I then went out and did some market research before like really diving into it.
Yes.
And then I realized that I did a few things. So the first thing I did was look to see if any other companies were doing it, and I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
And most of the delivery services that are out there, they only really work within that kind of food category. So there's nothing really for anything else that is going to be like, hey, I need some diapers for my child. I need, I need baby powder. I need deodorant. I need toothpaste. I need whatever. Like these kind of really small things, including clothing as well. Like there's no kind of like clothing delivery service from retail stores. Obviously you have your online retail,
Exactly.
but that comes in a few days. I'm trying to get something right now. So Major Favor is for that person that is really busy, but they know exactly what they want, and they need it right in that instant.
I mean, it's a great market in the context of the business of London. Everybody, rushing. So that's a great idea, man. And I already was scrolling into your IG. I was like, whoa, shit! Like this is awesome, man. And were there any challenges that you were like facing during this startup phase, or you said like, oh damn, like there are a lot of hoops that you had to go through?
No, definitely, because I'm not a technical founder, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first challenges was building this thing that I had in my head. So before I built it, I created a survey just to ask people, is this a type of service that they would want? And 99% of the people that I sent it out to said yes.
Wow.
The only reason it wasn't 100 is because one person didn't answer that question. So it would have been 100, but 99% of people said yes.
Yeah.
And 68% said that they would actually go and do the deliveries themselves as well.
Okay.
Just to give you a concept or idea of what it is. So how it works is when you download the app, you are either a deliverer or someone that can request. So you can do either or. So rather than the current traditional business models whereby there is either someone that is a delivery driver or a person that's requesting that thing, you have people now in major favor that are like saying, okay, I've just received a favor. That favor goes out to everyone that has the app, and then anyone that wants to do that favor can do it and earn some money.
Oh, okay, that's why the favor. Like, let me
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, it matches. Like now, like it matches it with my head. Like, let me make you a favor. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. But coming back to the question on difficulties in building something like this. So the first challenge was finding someone to build it. Now, because I worked in tech startups, I kind of already had a network per se. So I had people that I could reach out to ask for their advice on how to go about building it. And a lot of them said, look, like, it sounds like a great idea, but I haven't got the time, because you're working with people that probably get pitched these sort of things all the time, friends, family. Hey, you code, I have this great idea for this app, right? So it's partly convincing them. But luckily enough, I spoke to someone that I'd worked with, and he said, hey, I don't have the expertise for this type of project because it's quite extensive, but I know someone that does. And so part of being a founder is being able to really sell the dream of what this could potentially be, right? And so I'm reeling off figures like, look, there's like 60,000 daily active users on just the food category for like Uber Eats, for instance. But that's one category, right? So then I'm saying, okay, what about all the other categories that are out there, like in retail, you know what I mean? So with that kind of dream in mind, I got my first kind of like second co-founder type thing into the business in terms of bringing Nuno into the business, who's our kind of chief technical officer, and he's actually built the product. But then the other part of it, when you're not a technical founder, you kind of build based on the feedback that you get. So it actually took a really long time to build this app, because what I would do is I would build the app, I'd get to a certain point, and then I'd show it to people. I'd say, hey, this is what we're working on. These are the features, etc., etc. And then someone would come back to me and say, oh, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? This would be nice to have, and this would be nice to have. And then I'd be like, yeah, cool, we'll go and build all of that. And so what you don't realize is those features take time. And that was one of the naiveties of being a first-time founder, is that you think to yourself, okay, I'm just going to build the world's best product. But in doing research and through learning over time, what you want to do is actually build something that just to prove your hypothesis, right? You just want to prove that, in my case, I just wanted to prove that people wanted more than just food delivery. That was it. That's all I needed to prove. Not people wanted it to come like this and they wanted to choose their specific times. Because at the end of the day, when you're building something that is for people, the only thing you want to build is build something that people want. And if you build all these features, right? If you build all these features, it doesn't matter how many features it has. If they don't want it, they're not going to use it, right? So it's about building something that people want. And so when we kind of realized that we'd had this kind of full-blown product, it was no longer an MVP. And for people that watching that don't know what an MVP is, it's a minimum viable product. It's the bare minimum of what can I build to prove this hypothesis. And so once we'd realized that we were past MVP stage, we were like full-blown product, we thought, okay, let's strip back and let's just launch what we have. And so we've only recently launched. We recently launched like maybe a couple of weeks ago. We've got a couple hundred users now. So yeah, things are looking good, but like there's still a lot of work to do.
Man, you you preach on that, and the concept of like, you know, what I was stuck with is like, okay, let me shut it down and try to build this, you know, test my hypothesis.
Yeah.
That's it. And the moment you realize that, like, what really your hypothesis is, now actually, you know, you calm down, because before I wanted this, I wanted that, I wanted that, and then you're hyped. But the moment you realize, like, okay, no, let me just do this in my best ability.
Exactly.
And that we will see from there.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful journey. See, but that's what people don't see once they see an app on their phone.
Yeah.
They'll be like, cool.
Yeah.
Bro, the thought process.
Yeah.
The testing back and forth.
Yeah. It's difficult. The thing is, I saw a quote once, and it was talking, and I'll probably butcher this quote, but the concept behind it is that when people find that a product is easy to use and they think to themselves, oh, I could have built that. Yeah. That's when you know that you've built a great product, because it's so hard to make something easy. Does that make sense? Like, it's so hard to make something so simple, and that people get it straight away. It's so difficult to do that.
But why is that? Like, why do we always overcomplicate things?
Because we assume that more features mean better product, right? It's always the case. Like, for instance, if you think about it this way, right? You could live in a house and have one bedroom, one bathroom, one kitchen, one toilet. But then you think to yourself, well, why don't I have a garden so then I can play with the kids? Why don't I have a jacuzzi in that garden? And then your imagination runs wild with all of these different things that you think is actually improving that product or that thing, when in actual fact, it's really difficult to just get that one small thing done very well, you know?
Oh my God, that's, you preach, man. Like, this is a shift of mindset, because like you said, like, simplify a thing that even a child can understand it immediately.
Absolutely.
Give it to the 5-year-old, because now you're like, you know, you give a phone to the 5-year-old. That's why actually maybe iPhone is so better than Samsung. You know, we can debate on it, but
it's so simple.
It's just the simplicity.
But it's hard to do. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's so hard. Like when I first, because one of the things that I did when I was talking to developers is I actually went out and designed the product myself. So I actually went and taught myself how to like do UI design. Yeah. And when you're doing UI design, that in itself is its own skill set. Like, to have like a really simple design that people just know, and not redesigning the wheel, but using elements that are already existing. Because that's the other thing. People think they have to make things so different to what's already out there that they go against the grain of the actual of usability. Like, there's been a ton of research that goes into why a bicycle should only have 2 wheels. Right? There's so much research on why a car should have 4 wheels and not 6, and not etc., right? But people come out and they say, oh, but my car has 6 wheels, but then the user, they're like, I don't really need that, or I don't like it. Just it doesn't fit into what I want. So it's just about understanding, okay, what is the bare minimum that I need to do? And that might not be building an app, right? I could have said to my friends, hey, if anybody needs anything from town, let me know. And that could have been my MVP. Does that make sense? Like, an MVP doesn't need to be this thing that you go and spend thousands of pounds or dollars on. It can simply be, what is the bare minimum I need to do to test my hypothesis? So I went out and said to myself, I need to build an app, because I didn't know better, right? I didn't know better. But in actual fact, if I went back in time, I probably would have just said, hey, here's my number. If anybody needs anything from town, message this number, tell me what you want. And then based on the numbers that you get from that, that's when you decide, okay, this is something real, that this current workaround is unsustainable, right? You need something sustainable like an app to then go and build it out properly. But just for everyone that's thinking, but like I don't know a developer, I don't know this, I don't know that, doesn't matter. Just break it all the way down. What are you trying to prove? Is it that if you're doing a delivery service, okay, cool. If it's something niche like, I don't know, black hair products, message everyone and see, is this something that they want delivered? Just find out. It's about doing that customer development before product development. That's the mistake that I made.
That customer development before the product development. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's really powerful, because like what you said, like we're living in such a pace that, we're like, okay, I need to build an app. That's the way to play. But the difficulty is, like you said, like trying to simplify it, because you said like the developers, what you were trying to say also is like the developers find a way that it's really difficult to create a simplified product. Can you go deep on that? Because you said like, okay, you wanted to give all the features, but it was still difficult for the developer to say, okay, like I want to simplify it, because you started with like, you did your UX design on your own, but to match those UX design with the app himself is another whole game. How did you or your co-founder found out like, okay, these are the things we still need from the design to dish out, because it doesn't work in reality?
Yeah. So it's the thing is, just so that anybody that works with a developer, and anyone that works with a developer will know this. Whatever you tell the developer to build, that's what they will build. It's like you're the architect and they're the builder, right? So you can say, okay, cool, I want this, and this, and they will just go and build that. So it's not up to the developer to help you simplify what the user experience is. So there's two different things when it comes to design. There's the user interface, so when you click a button, how it interacts with another process, etc., and the user experience, so how does it make me feel using this product? And so the problem that I had was I was trying to fit every single feature on one page, right? I was saying, okay, like it was like, okay, cool, they need to change their time, there's the button. There was a bunch of buttons, right? And then we ended up simplifying it even more, so that it's just like a drop down, and looking at other designs that are already existing in the world. What I also did was I also reached out to a design team. So once I had, the design that I envisioned, this is the workflow, right? So these are the wireframes for the app. Page 1 is going to be this, page 2 this, page 3 this, and these are the types of interactions that I want to happen on these pages. So what you can then do is you can take that to a UI/UX designer and have them redesign what you've already done. That's going to save you a bunch of time and a bunch of money, because if you've already designed it, all they have to do is say, okay, you just don't know the principles of design. I've never gone to design school. All I know is square box, round button, done, right? But if you look at like Instagram, for instance, it's not crazily designed. It's very simple. There's a heart, there's a little plane to send a message, there's a couple buttons to bring drop downs. It's very, very simple, but because it's so simple, it delights people, right? The real content is coming from the users. You don't need to make it any more crazy. It just needs to be super simple. Like all Instagram is a box with the image and some icons and then a couple comments. That's it.
That's true.
And if you then was to try to tell somebody else to design a platform like that, they would think about so many different ways in how they can enhance it, rather than just making it super simple. So to answer your question, it was more about me figuring out how to make it simple, and recognizing that. Because the other thing that you can do is you can get carried away with your product. You can fall in love with it. And that's the problem. That's a really tough thing to deal with as a founder, because you end up falling in love with your product, and that then means that when you need to make significant changes or tough decisions, like let's just put it out, because you should feel embarrassed by the first thing you put out, by the way. Like you should really feel embarrassed by it, and that's normal. Like if you go back in time and Google what Facebook looked like or what Instagram looked like, they did not look like what they look like now. So there's no point thinking about it in a singular way, right? Because when people think about a product, they think about something physical. They think about it being like that for its entirety. So when you're building it, you're thinking about what people will feel like this product will feel like 10 years from now. But that's not the case, because you're always, as you get more funding, as you get more customers to be able to improve that product, it will improve over time. It's not like a house that you don't improve. Like it's something that continuously grows as the business grows as well.
Because the people are growing, and the experience are growing, and so you get more expertise in the business, right? So the expertise is only as good as what I can come up with in my brain. But if I then have somebody else that I hire who's been doing this for 5-10 years, they're gonna add their 2 cents into it, and it's gonna make the product even better. So what I would say to anyone that is going through this whole thing of, I've got something, but it's not what I envision it to be. It's always never going to be what you envision it to be. You're comparing it with people who have billions of dollars to spend on product design, on software developers, etc. So you're competing with that. But the way that you compete with that is your service. That's what really accelerates you, and the weight and the ability to be agile and move in different ways whenever anything shifts. Like if I see something on Instagram right now, I can immediately react to that within the product, because we don't have a huge customer base to think, oh wow, like this is going to affect us in this negative way, or we don't have to think about it that much. So you can just make decisions really quickly, and that's something that big organizations can't do. So that's where you win your business, is by delighting customers, by the ability to make quick changes. Like let's say you say to me now, Rashaad, do you know what would be great if Major Favor had this feature? I could turn around to my guy and say, right, okay, cool, let's go and build that. And then because I've now built that, you now feel like you're part of this thing that we're building together, Exactly. And once you had the MVP, and you said you just launched a few weeks ago, did you have to go to a seed funding, or because you already had maybe your partner who can already do it? So what was the journey behind releasing before you release it?
So seed funding is a funny thing. So I think what most people think is that their idea is enough for seed funding, and it's not. It really isn't. And I say that from experience. So I went to investors and said, hey, this is my idea. And a lot of them will say to you, great idea, but go and get traction. right? And and what they're trying to kind of see is, are you really serious about this thing? Like, is this person really going to make this thing happen? The types of people that get funding just off an idea are people that have proven track records, people that have built companies to a point of exiting, where they've sold that company or been acquired, or they've seen success, right? If you don't have that level of expertise, you're going to have to go and prove it on your own. So Major Favor is currently self-funded. So everything that I've done, I've had to kind of be really smart and really strategic about the decisions that I've made and about the people that I bring on into the business. And things like, again, work within your means, right? So what I would recommend is use your salary as your investor. That is your first investor, right? Yeah. If somebody said to you, all right, cool, I'm going to give you £20,000 right now, and that £20,000 is going to come in increments throughout this year. I'm going to give you £2,000 or £1,500 every month.
Yeah.
You would take that, right? You'd be like, okay, cool. That's no different to a salary. It's no different, right? So I've looked at myself as my investor. I've looked at myself as, okay, cool, I'm going to invest my money. What that does is it allows me to keep more shares in the business because I'm not constantly distributing shares. Another way to get key people in the business to help you build it is by offering shares. Like, there's no point having 100% of nothing. Like, there's no point, right? Like, you can talk about this idea for as long as you want, but if you're not selling anything, if it doesn't exist, you don't have anything. So don't be frugal with your shares. Paint the picture of what this thing could be worth, and then pitch that to someone that could potentially help you build that thing that you want to build.
Man, that's awesome, man, because sometimes we see on the internet, oh, he got funded X amount of millions, etc., etc., and you be like, yo, I got an idea, I can't do that, I can't get that money, but to see the way you approach it is really awesome, because that's something I'm gonna take out of your book.
Nice.
About your salary. But sometimes in the context, like you said, like a lot of maybe young founders don't really have that sustainable job to reinvest that money into their business. So what do you how do you give them advice in the context of I know even now in this COVID situation where a lot of people lost their jobs, it's like, oh, I still want to create, but how can I manage to get that extra income so I can feed my dream?
Yeah. So if you don't have money, what you have is time, right? So you don't have money, what you have is a bunch of time.
That's powerful, yeah.
A lot of time. And what you can do with that time is reach out to people. It took me a year to convince someone to help me build this thing. It wasn't like I just turned around and someone said, yeah. It took me about a year of just constantly beating on the doors, asking the same people, being like, hey, this is how far I've come with it. Are you interested now? No. Hey, cool. Next 6 months, I grind, try and do something. Hey, look at what I've done now. Are you interested? No. Again, okay, do you know anyone? That's what that hustle is about. So instead of thinking, okay, how can I get money to build this? How can I get the people, right? It's the people that are going to build it for you. An investor can come in, you get money, and you go and build this thing, right? Cool. But if you have the people that can help you market it, you could right now is probably the best time to be reaching out to specific people on LinkedIn. Anyone from any company is accessible right now. We've never been more connected in the world right now, right? And people are doing podcasts and webinars left, right, and center. Yeah. So if you're saying to someone, okay, instead of asking them, hey, can I have X amount of your time, just say, look, I just need you to answer this one question. I've just got one question. How did you do this? That's it. That's all you need, because whatever they say is going to be super valuable for you to move forward, right? So it's again, it's not about having things that are like that are already built. It's about what is the bare minimum, and you've got to be creative here. What is the bare minimum that I can do to prove that this thing exists? Like, you can create a Wix website, like something really, really basic. Like, if you're creative enough to create a website, right? Let's say you create a website and you create a landing page that basically describes the thing that you're building. You can probably get traction just off of that and take that to an investor. It's about showing what is it that, like, do people want this thing that I am trying to build? That in itself is enough to get an investor to be like, okay, cool, you've got 20,000 people that have already signed up for this thing. That, do you know what I'm saying? If you really think that it's going to be big, and 20,000 people have said, yeah, like, when this is out, I want it. Or not even, you don't even need to be like, it's coming soon. Like, don't even make it like that. Make it as if it exists, right? And just show, look, this many people want this thing. I now need funding to go and build it. Do you want to be part of this thing? Do you see what I'm saying?
Ooh, that's it.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like that. It's just like, make believe that it's already created and it's a business that they just didn't know about. And then that way you can be like, okay, cool, I've got X amount of hundreds of thousands of people. And there's all sorts of creative, like, platforms. Like, I think people are overlooking places like TikTok. I think TikTok is like insanely, like, good. Like, it's so addictive. One, the engagement on there is insane. Like, the amount of comments that you see, it's in the thousands, right? So I think places like that, and it's not even like famous people, it's literally any and everyone. So you have to understand, okay, how can I use those types of platforms with my business? How can I engage on that level, you know?
Man, that's so powerful, man. I just want to respect your time, because I tried to cut it short, like at least 40 minutes of a beautiful conversation, but I had a lot of, moments. I wrote a lot of things down as well. But, Rashaad, thank you so much. You enlightened me, and I think you enlightened a lot of those audiences who's gonna see this.
Awesome.
Also, like, you broke it down, like the way it really happens, not the way they show you. And that's why it made me smile. It's like, damn.
No, do you know what? In closing, it's exactly what you say. That, like, this thing is not easy, right? It's not for the faint-hearted. It's something that, like, any sane person wouldn't do. You could literally, if I turn around and told you, yeah, we generated 20,000 this year, you might be like, oh my God, that's amazing. But I could have turned that over in a job. In a normal job, I could have done that in excess and keep all of it. I wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. I wouldn't have to, whatever it is, right? I could have done that in a job. So it's about understanding that it's not easy. One, you don't necessarily need funding. Definitely try and do it bootstrap, because the purpose here is that once you get to a point where you don't need an investor, that's when they'll come. Right? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's when they'll come. Like, you want to get to a point where it's just like, yeah, I don't need your money. And that's when you go for investment, because they're just going to be fighting to get into your business. And that's what you want to do. You want to get to that point as quickly as possible. And then that's when you can say, okay, cool, now it's the time to go out there. But for anyone that's thinking about doing it, just go and do it. Just don't think about any kind of, like, any challenges. Like, that's the fun part. You'll never get to experience this part ever again, right? Talking to people like yourself, like exploring different avenues in how to make this thing work. Like, this is the fun part. You have to embrace that. That hustle is what you have to embrace. And once you get to grips with that, I think life will be a lot smoother. Man,
Rashaad, thank you so much. You close on a beautiful note. So, you know, I really appreciate your time, man. And major favor is gonna be big. I can see.
I hope so.
Most definitely.
Thanks, Clement. Speak to you soon.